I just remember that scene from The Grinch almost where it's like, nothing's working. I'm not going. Just end it. No one needs to hear my story. You guys were so great in reeling me back and being like, we'll just do it again tomorrow.
You're listening to the All In Wellness Approach podcast.
This is your wellness, your life. So just one question.
Are you ready to go all in?
Hey guys, it's Sarah behind the scenes, and welcome back to another episode of the All In After Show, the space where we slow down, reflect, and go a little deeper on conversations happening inside the All In Wellness Approach podcast. Today, we're unpacking episode 3, Living Well for the Long Haul, where Aubrey turned the tables by interviewing Amanda about the journey from competitive athletics to opening her own gym and what it really takes to turn big goals into simple, sustainable actions. Let's get into it. When I reflect back on when we filmed this episode, it's really funny because this was the first episode that we actually had to film twice because there was a thunderstorm that happened the first time we filmed, and it was really loud in the gym. We couldn't get it cleaned up in the audio, so we had to go back and do it again. That was really fun. What do you guys remember from that day?
Also remember the storm rolling in and the light change too. So this was our first time in a space. Like the hangar had lots of really great light. The coffee shop had great light. And then we were trying to figure out, how do you make a dark garage, well lit? And we had it fine because we had the daylight. But then once the daylight was gone, it was like, you can literally tell this looks different, sounds different. And 2, it's always hard for me to talk about myself, so it's going to be hard to talk about myself again today. I just remember feeling like that scene from The Grinch almost where it's like, nothing's working. I'm not going. Just end it. No one needs to hear my story. And then you guys were so great in reeling me back and being like, we'll just do it again tomorrow.
How about you, Obs?
I actually think it was a God thing working out to where we were able to do a full run through and shake off the nerves, just because that really was the third time we were technically ever using our equipment and getting Amanda comfortable to tell her story and then get her true self to come out, because she is such a beacon of light and a fountain of knowledge in every facet of life, which is why she's my best friend. It was great to then go back and redo it the next day.
During the episode, we talked about the journey of opening up True Fit Georgetown and really how it started there at the home gym. And it felt kind of symbolic that we were starting filming our podcast in the place where you really started your other business. When you were starting the gym from the home gym, was there anything that season taught you about resourcefulness and anything that kind of has translated over to the AWA Collective, Amanda?
Definitely. It's just start. So when we decided to start sharing the home gym with people, it wasn't fully fitted yet. We didn't have every piece of equipment that's in there now. I think people think, until it's perfect, I can't start. And it's actually the opposite. People get more invested when they go on the journey with you. So we had enough equipment in there to start classes, and then more people came and we bought more pieces of equipment, and just allowing it to grow as we go was amazing. And it taught me it doesn't have to start perfect. It can grow to be what it needs to be and let it direct itself, where if you think you predetermine everything, it actually stifles the growth because there's nowhere to go, or you've already decided what it's going to be, instead of letting the community of people who are on this journey with you allow you to help it develop. And so I think in the podcast, in our little group meetings, I think that's my little superpower to remind us no, hey, this is going to show us what it needs to be. We just have to start. We just have to put stuff out there, and then we'll get information back that helps us do better next time. And people will be invested in that journey and seeing the growth and seeing, now where are they? And I remember back when they were there. If you bring people on the journey with you, they're invested in it and they feel a part of it. And they also feel almost ownership and pride for you, with you, and for themselves too. So that's kind of helped me realize anytime we want to do anything, whether it's start a business or start a new journey, as long as you're bringing people with you and just start, even though you may not have all the tools, you may not have all of the fancy stuff that you think you need, you may not have every answer, but if you just start, then the path opens itself up.
I love that. The gym is also a really intimidating environment for some people. myself included, when I first started going. And I think what you are exceptional at is kind of creating an environment where the gym feels really safe, like emotionally, mentally, all of those things. How have you created that space? Kind of what is your way of doing that?
Because we started out of our house and we were able to create a base of people who just felt like family, and then bring that into the brick and mortar space. Now, if you notice, we have a little business kitchen. We have little amenities that it's like, no, if you were hosting someone in your home, what would you like to offer them at bare minimum? Coffee, tea, and water. Everybody comes to the gym, and a lot of the times you're breathing in the same space as people, and people worry about their breath. So we have little mints and cough drops. Sometimes you're on the mic and you're get a little dry and you need a little cough drops. Just creating that space, and then all the way through the staff too. When we hire someone or put an ad out and we do an interview, we tell people, you're not just coming to work, you're joining a family, an established family, and we want to make sure that it's a fit. And here's how our environment and our family works. And awesome if you're up for that. It's okay if you're not, but we make sure that every staff member that comes on is willing to breathe that into life, because John and I can't be there for everything. And then that breeds into the members too, where we hit home that this is a community space. We high five during class. I tell people, you're probably going to get a sweaty hug from me. They're my favorite. Even people who are like, I don't want to be hugged, I'm like, you're gonna. And we went to a Lindsey Sterling concert last night with a bunch of people from the gym. It's not just a gym. There's a lot of things coming out about longevity and how, especially for women, the social aspect of things is really, really important, not just for physical health, but mental health. Like, it all weaves together. And so keeping that mindset of community, family, or just hosting people at your home, whether it's your house or your business, it is your space. We wanted to make it feel like, oh, you're just coming over to our house.
Love it. Then there's also kind of this flip side. So when I joined the gym, were already in your space. I saw kind of that end product. And I think a lot of people can see the end product in your case, like the gym, the community that you've built, the leadership that you have, and they make a lot of assumptions on what it took to get there, and they don't always see the setbacks. Now that we're friends, and I know your story, I know about your setbacks. Can you share some of the moments that felt like maybe this isn't going to work? Why is this so hard? Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, even before we started, weirdly going way back into just mindset of life, looking at setbacks as, I don't even necessarily like that word, because it just comes with such defeat. And I think if you look as a setback as a defeating moment, there's no productivity. Where I've kind of looked at a setback or missing the mark or whatever you want to call it as a necessary evil. And maybe that comes from gymnastics, because like, oh, you fell off the beam. That's it. You can never do it again. No, you get back up and you go again. It's just part of the process, and you refine and you sharpen, and you need those to be able to be successful. The crazy part is we decided to open the gym during probably the largest setback in our marriage, our life. My husband was bedridden from a spinal infection that caused him to be practically paralyzed for a short period of time and need surgeries and get a spinal fusion. And he's laying in bed and he's like, okay, let's open a gym. So I think the whole gym was born out of the largest setback of our adult life. Going into it, everything that may have been looked at as a setback, we just looked at like, well, we made it through that, so we can make it through this. Doesn't mean it's not hard. Learning that failure's not final. Having community around you during a setback is huge. When you get lost and you think, is this who I am? Am I really that? Is that really my intention? Am I bad? Am I this? Am I not enough? Do I not know what I'm doing? And then to be able to surround yourself with people who actually know you, to be able to be like, no, sis, here's the mirror. This is who you are. You just fell off. Let's remind you. Let's get back. That's not for you. That's okay. That doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just means that's not the space that you're supposed to be in. Come back and let's get you back into your space. So I think if you call it a setback, the biggest thing that we like to do is try to isolate. And the number one thing you need to do is be rooted in people who know you, who can remind you, no, you've got this.
I think that's where people like Aubrey, right, kind of come in as your longtime best friend, right? Sharing your experiences and relying on people like her to remind you who you are. Aubrey, you've kind of been able to see Amanda's journey from the outside for a really long time. Is there anything in her journey that most people don't see that you think would be interesting if they knew?
Oh my gosh, I think the word that comes to mind when you ask me that is Amanda's bravery.
Mm.
I saw it all even through college. She'll do it scared. She'll do it sick. She'll do it questioning life. She'll do it upside down in her sleep. What I've learned from her is if you want to see change in your life for the better, your life changes when you decide to be brave and then trust yourself enough to see it through. It's failing upwards. It's better to try and fail than to not try at all, because where are you going to then be able to gauge yourself and then stick yourself into the proper situation to create that change? Just her bravery has been really amazing and infectious. Like it's allowed me to be brave in some of the life-changing decisions I made. She was very heartbroken when I was like, I'm moving to Texas, but truly making the decision to move across the country for my career over a decade ago was because she instilled bravery into me to not be afraid to fail, to just try. That bleeds and breeds into every other facet of anybody's life. I mean, whatever you need to or want to accomplish, big or small, like we said in the episode, what's the next right step? What's the next? Just do the next right thing.
It's one of my favorite parts of that episode, and I find myself repeating it sometimes daily, like just what's the next right thing? This leads me really nicely into the next portion where we talked about people finding their why. And we didn't get too much into detail about that particular part of the process, but I think it's a really important part of the process because it's where the momentum flips and changes. And it can often be one of the hardest parts of the process is just like starting and rooting in your why. Do you have any tips for people on finding their why? I think we talked a lot about if your why is like physical vanity, I want to lose weight, then that's probably not deeply rooted into something that's going to really help you for the long term. But do you have any tips on helping people find something that is rooted deeper?
Yeah, it's like living well for the long haul. If your why is short term, then so is your motivation, so is your organization. You need a sustainable life why, not just a wedding, not just a vacation, and not just a short fix. I've dove into this a little bit for myself lately. Your why isn't always going to be, tattooed on your forehead and then you have it. You lose it sometimes. I catch myself all the time. Why am I doing this? Or why do I feel this way? Talking about the bravery piece. Why is that just in me? Why does it seem easier for me? And to me, it doesn't. But outside looking in, people are like, no, it just comes naturally to you. Going to a therapy session of your childhood and going into why bravery was easy and then what my why was as a kid. As a kid, I was told this by one of my aunts. She's like, you just made everyone feel special. Oh, okay. As a kid, you don't really realize you're doing it. And now as an adult, I realize whether it's making people feel special, I want to empower everybody. Live your life. Do what you want to do and not let anything get in your way. Look how you want to look. Be who you want to be. Do the job you want to do. I think everybody's just so caught up in fear, and not that that's not a bad thing. We all have it. I have it too. Just making people feel worthy and special and empowered has always been my why. I don't know if I was just born with it or I realized, making people feel special makes me feel good. So I'm going to keep doing that. As a kid, when you get a reaction, I don't know where that comes from, but I do know that is my joy and at the base of everything, whether it's the podcast, whether it's training people, it's because I want women to feel empowered, to feel beautiful, to know that they are worthy of it. We always take ourselves second, and I'm really empowering people to know that they're special and to put themselves first. And then the why part of bravery piece is not knowing it, but reflecting on it from a young age. They were like little hard things. And I think we've all had them. So I'm not saying that I'm special this way, but I was supposed to be a twin. My mom lost my twin. And so from an early age, she shared that with me. I carried that with me. God must have me here for a reason. He allowed me to stay. So can't waste that. I need to do something. And my parents joke, the world couldn't handle two of you. So, one's enough. But then in kindergarten, like right before you're supposed to go to school for the first time, I had bilateral inguinal hernias. And so I had a really big surgery at a really young age, and it cut through it's almost like a C-section scar, but it's like two instead of one. And I had trouble coming out of anesthesia. You don't know it when you're going through it, but then the way your parents react. And then that was kindergarten. Then a few years later at Thanksgiving, I got attacked by a dog and the whole right side of my face. You can't tell now, but if you get closer and some of the things you can see it, but the whole right side of my face was torn up. I thought that I went into this like dreamlike space, and whether you believe in signs, God, dreams, whatever, my aunt had told me later that she had a dream that happened to me months prior to it happening, and that I died in the dream. And so again, another reason why, like, nope, God's got me here for a reason. And in those formidable years of being like a little girl where like you just care about like, am I going to be pretty? All these things kind of stifled that, where it's like, well, there's a bigger thing than just being pretty, but there are things that you can do to keep you healthy and safe. And so I missed like all of third grade because my parents didn't want me to go to school with my face all torn up. And so it was like almost like a homeschool year. And then in my early years of college, I was 19, and I was in sports medicine school. I was captain of the college cheer team. I was coaching gymnastics, working at a golf course. I don't know how. Like when I look at it, I'm like, how many hours in the day are there? And we had to get a physical every year for cheerleading. And my doctor is really great. My mom was a nurse, so all of our doctors were kind of like family because she works with all of them. And she knew my family history. And she was like, oh, you've got a lot going on. And I wasn't necessarily having many symptoms, but so she's like, I'm just going to run a couple of tests. There's a family history of stomach and colon cancer in my family. And so she just ran some tests. Well, it comes back, and there's this bacteria called H. pylori. And so I'm going here for a reason, because like 60 to 75, the stat changes all the time, of people have this bacteria in their tummy, in their gut. And if it goes unchecked, it can create stomach cancer, colon cancer. If you have a laceration or an ulcer, which a lot of us have because we all live really stressful lives, that bacteria can get in there and create cancerous tissue. Well, that's what was happening. And so we had to go through the process of attacking that bacteria because it was getting to that point. I call it like, they say like stage 1, it's like stage 0.5. And luckily it was early enough, but at age 19, hearing the C word or like being close to that was really crazy. And like, okay, I didn't really tell a whole lot of people because I had a lot going on. And I was like, nope, we're just going to do what we need to do, fix our diet, try to de-stress as much as we can, and do whatever the doctor tells us. The first round, it's like 26 pills back then. I don't know what the treatment is now. I know that it's changed, but 26 pills a day for like 6 weeks. First round didn't work. And when you're taking that many pills, like it's really hard to eat. Everything tastes like metal. And so overcoming that piece of it. And then appendicitis, like all the little things that hit you in life. And we've all got them. I know, Sarah, you've got stories that I am hopefully excited one day you'll share too. And so just going through things that you could consider setbacks. And I think from that young age of going through all of that and keeping a positive mindset and keeping the mindset of like, no, this doesn't define me. This doesn't get to take me. I've got way too much to do. God has a purpose for me here because I've known that since a young age. And this is in the way of me making people feel special and empowering people to do things. If I'm going to empower people that they can do hard things, I've got to do it too. So I think that's always been my why to be brave, and my why to what I do is that I'm here for a purpose, and I'm pretty sure that purpose is to empower people, to show them like through God and through your own self-belief, like you can do whatever you want. You're going to have to do some work, but it's going to be worth it, and you are worth it, and you're special. So I think those are my whys and the life that created those to sustain.
Question for both of you. If we have any listeners that feel disconnected from their purpose, is there anything that you would recommend that they do to kind of lock back in?
Have you ever heard of the 5 whys method?
Yeah, we use it at work all the time, actually.
So do you know where it was created?
No.
Because it's funny you use it at work. It was actually created by Toyota in the 1950s as part of their production system.
Okay.
And it caught on like wildfire and now has been implemented a lot into the wellness community. Basically, the 5 whys method is a simple progressive questioning tool to help you peel back the layers of your goals and or struggles until you can uncover the real root motivation. So, do one of you want to play the 5 whys method with me right now?
Let's do it.
Amanda, you should play.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's go.
kind of like going back to your core right now. So how it works is you're going to start with a goal or issue. So like, for example, what's an issue you're dealing with right now? It could be as generic as like, I want to maintain my wellness journey. Like if you want to pick on high rocks, or you were talking about not feeling
The gym. Do we go to a bigger building or do we stay where we're at?
So you're questioning what to do with your business to grow it or stay for the time being. I don't want you to filter yourself, but take that answer and we're going to ask why. So why do you want to go to a bigger building?
Because there's so much more offerings that we can give to people that we're not able to right now. So there's kids programs and more personalized small group training. It's things that people have asked for that we can totally provide, but we don't have the space for it.
Why do you want to provide more programs for people?
Because it's a need, and I believe that we have the tools to fill it.
Why do you think you have the tools to fill it?
Because it's my God-given purpose to create a safe space for others.
Why is it important to you to create that safe space?
So I don't feel like the gifts I've been given are wasted.
So that's the 5th why I've asked you, which means your calling is that you have already seen and you know your gifts. You want to maximize on your gifts to provide to others, which is great. You know, a lot of people don't internalize their why because they feel selfish, or they feel, I guess selfish is the easiest word. They just feel like they're talking about me, me, me. For you to actually own and say, I have gifts. I see my gifts. I'm honing in on my gifts. And now it's time to pour from a full cup into others. That's your why. So yeah, heck yeah. When are we looking at buildings?
Now?
Good. It can be as big or small as you want to utilize this 5 why method, but why it works is because it reveals emotional anchors that build discipline and consistency. So you know you have these gifts, and you know that God keeps bringing you good people, you know, and wholesome relationships through the gym, and you see the results that you're doing to help others in your gym community that you created. It also helps us to understand what you're really trying to protect or become or heal. And so it's becoming your stronger, bigger franchise, and it's healing others through your gifts. And then you're turning a generic goal into something personal and non-negotiable. So this really is a non-negotiable. Your strength with you and John are to build from the ground up. And your location, you strategically and beautifully chose your location. You were mad at me for moving to Texas, and here you are. We are all in Texas now. So tips to do this 5 why method at home would be to write each answer without overthinking. The simple answer is usually the true one, which is great. And then if a response feels vulnerable, you kind of hit a root. So if it's like, ooh, you know, I feel that one. Revisit every season of life. Your why evolves, and that's healthy.
The short-term why is a good Kickstarter. I joke that it's like lighting a match, but matches don't stay. Otherwise, you burn your fingers, right? What sustains that flame is oxygen. Oxygen's not sexy. You can't really see it. It's consistent. You need it for life. So if you need a Kickstarter, that's awesome. But underneath that Kickstarter, you need something sustainable to keep it. So fitting into that dress, if that's your first motivation that actually gets you to start, then awesome. But like you said, then after that, that's the hard part that I get so sad watching people then fall off. They put all this work into something and then they go back, and not only does it go back, but it goes even further and then they feel even more defeated. And so if you have a Kickstarter, use it, but then also do the work to find that why too.
There's something that Aubrey touched on with where your why is rooted. And is it rooted in fear or is it rooted in progress? I've had periods of my life, probably pretty long periods of my life, where I think my why was rooted in fear of taking risks, of failing, of disappointing people, all of those types of things. And if you can switch it and make it something more positive, then everything downstream becomes more positive and you're not reacting based off of negativity, really. You're just trying to create something positive.
And how do you overcome fear?
You just keep doing the next right thing.
Bravery.
And bravery.
Yeah. The courage. And I think, how do you be brave when you know you're worth more? Fear is the strongest motivator. It's also the strongest dictator, right? Look at history. Most people are run by fear. And I think that's also part of my why that my dad helped me figure out. And not the greatest way, but he was like, you're not afraid of anything. So I'm afraid of you because I can't get you to fear anything. And being a gymnast, like you feel like a superhuman as a kid. You can do whatever, right? Like fear's not a thing. So that was always hard for me then growing up. Then when fear started to creep in and realizing like how much people are driven by fear, then at the end of their life, because I was always really close with the elders in my family, and then talking to them, in hospital beds when they're like, I wish I wasn't so afraid. I wish I would have done this, really hit me to be like, okay, I'm not going to let fear rule me. But that's not the norm. Most people are run by that, and that's not bad. I get afraid too, but I learned really young how to like, oh, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm afraid to backflip on this beam, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to live, and it's going to be fine. Realizing how many people stay in a job or something as simple as staying in a job because they're afraid of losing their insurance, which is totally a real thing. But now being a business owner and paying for private insurance, if I would have known what I know now about private insurance, then I would have done it way sooner. We're just too afraid, and we're allowing ourselves to live in the unknown of getting that information to potentially get us out of that fear, like that paralyzation. So yeah, fear can be a good motivator in some ways, but then there's irrational fear, or that you haven't even gotten the information. You're allowing yourself to just sit in this reality that doesn't really exist except for in your brain, and creating, some may call that anxiety, which is a true thing, but it's learning how to push through that. And that's something for me too that I love coaching people through, is like, no, we're going to coach you out of this fear because it doesn't get to rule your life like you do. Living in fear versus living in self-worth and purpose. A lot of people, they're like, what am I here for? They think it has to be this big, sexy thing. Honestly, just being kind to people, whatever it is that you do for others that gives you joy or that makes you feel valued or important, start there to find your why. And look at the people around you. I do this too, right? Even today, I'm like, guys, I don't feel pretty. What's my why? Who am I? Am I smart enough? And you have to have, again, the community around you to be like, hey, here's who you are. Here's what I see your value as someone I care about in my life and what you're good at. And again, if you don't know your why and you can't answer those questions, then do it in a group with people who know you really well and who love you and who are also willing to be really honest. Because there are people who know and love me, but they aren't willing to be honest. So the people who are will help you find that why if you're really lost and you feel like you can't.
When you find your why, the how stops feeling so impossible. And that's your true motivator to just start. Start now, start ugly, start tired, start morning, start night, start after you've binged and you're miserable. Just start.
Just start because it will change your life.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The podcast. Sarah, I was so excited when you guys know me, if you dangle a carrot, I'm gonna get it. So Sarah was talking about her career and she's like, I've always wanted to maybe have a business, but I'm not sure exactly what, because you're so talented and it's so hard to like pick an avenue, right? And you were just like, but I think I would go into business with you. And I was like, oh, you would? Be careful what you say. And a week later, we're at Sweet Lemon Kitchen having a meeting about a podcast. And here we are. So Sarah, hearing your story of bravery too, and hearing your why and watching you transition in these years of just fighting for your health and now not being afraid of goals and like calling your shot and having this self-worth again and not just fighting against your body but working with it, and has just been awesome. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you, as much as you're willing to share.
My why can really be summed up as there was a point. There was a very specific point actually in my journey where I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Where I was in my mid-20s, I can't leave my house. I'm an emotional wreck. Everything is just spiraling down. And this is either going to be the rest of my life or I need to do something urgently to turn things around and just flip the momentum. And the things that I did to flip the momentum probably weren't the best steps that I did, right? Like I kind of did some extreme diets because I had a lot of weight to lose, and all of these types of things, but like I just took one step, and even if that is not the perfect next step, it at least got me closer to where I needed to be. And I need to want something more for myself than what I currently have. And I got to a point where I very rarely lived my life, really. I went to college, I studied a lot, and I got my degree early and did all the things that I was told I needed to do, but I really wasn't living my life. I wasn't taking risks. I wasn't doing anything that really fulfilled me. And there were also moments where I said, I am going to stop acting out of fear and I'm just going to jump and trust that I'll be okay at the end of it. And even if I fail along the way, I will learn things with the failure that will get me closer to where I need to be. And so that became my why. And that why is still the same, and it's stuck.
And you had your partner who was like, hey, I know you want to make some change. And it was Gavin who made the appointment with us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to go to the gym. I knew I needed to start building muscle in order to be truly healthy. But I was a high school, like science fair kid. When I was in college, I was in scientific labs. Am not an athletic person. And the idea of going into a gym was so overwhelming that I was like, I'll just run. But that wasn't what I needed. And so it was like, okay, then we're going to go to the professionals. I was dragging my feet, and it took my husband while I was sleeping, who reached out to True Fit Georgetown and was like, I have a wife who needs to go in. And then once I had a personal trainer, it was like, okay, I have somebody there who's right down the street, who's waiting on me, and all I need to do is show up. I can do that. And from there, I was able to make the patterns, and then I was able to start to see progress. And then it becomes like this positive snowball. Now I have to go to the gym. I hate it. I dread it every single time, but I can force myself to do it a lot easier than it was at the beginning.
It takes me back to the episode 2, which has always been my little motto. And you were living it the whole time. I was just sitting there. She had faith and did the work. Like, have faith, do the work. Have faith that you have people around you and that you're capable, and that if you do have godly faith, that God's got the plan. You just have to do your part. And you were doing that without really knowing that that was your little tagline too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
have faith, do the work. And if you don't know what the work is, it doesn't have to be, a whole roadmap. It's just the next right thing.
This feels like a really good place to stop. So we're going to go into our very last question of the episode. What's in your cup this morning? We are filming early in the morning before we start our day jobs. So probably caffeine, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is coffee with the creamer that's frothed and everything. It's also cold and rainy. So just a warm, happy cup of joy.
Yeah, protein butter cookie latte.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
And electrolytes.
Yeah. Okay. So I have my electrolytes over here, And then it's Advent calendar season. And so this week I got to break into my Harry Potter tea Advent calendar. And this morning, herbal fruit tea, which is really lovely. But I need caffeine right after this for sure because it's early and I'm tired. All right, that's episode 3 of the All In After Show. If Amanda's story inspired you, take a moment to reflect on the tiny rituals that keep you grounded. What helps you live well for the long haul? We'd love to hear your thoughts, your habits, and your takeaways. So drop a comment, leave a review, or join the conversation on Instagram or YouTube. And remember, you don't need big goals to make big changes. Just do the next right thing.
Merry Christmas
From the AWA Collective.
We'll see you next year. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the All in Wellness Approach. If the show resonates with you, please rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us reach more people who are ready to live all in. Join the collective on Instagram at AWA Podcast. That's at AIWA Podcast for tools, insights, and inspiration, and catch every full episode on YouTube. Your support fuels this mission and keeps the collective moving all in. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical, psychological, or professional advice. Always consult your doctor before changing your lifestyle.